We are recording now. So, welcome everybody. We're so glad to have everybody here. Some of you I can see, some of you I can only see the names, but it's really a pleasure to welcome you to our third annual winter conference. I'm Bettina Zumdick.
And I'm Alex Jack, and we're broadcasting live from the beautiful Berkshires. We have a snowstorm, as does much of the country. Many of you friends have already commented prior to the going online. So anyway, let's enjoy a wonderful afternoon together.
Yes, so we have an exciting lineup for today, and of course, an exciting lineup for the coming week. And we have 15 different presenters coming up during the week with 15 different presentations that are going to be really valuable, I'm sure, and as in the past, always really inspiring, informative, and the sharing that we have throughout this conference is really wonderful. So I have always enjoyed it. I know many people have as well. And all of these educators that we have scheduled for the week are leading macrobiotic teachers from around the world.
Yeah, we will be presenting a brief slideshow so you can see their pictures and their topics, and we'll make some very brief comments on each of them. And then after that, we have prepared two brief presentations of our own. Bettina will start, and your topic will be
loving your liver in our world where everything is so polarized, and people exhibit a lot of road rage and anger and, all of that. So helping our livers to improve, to navigate more elegantly, easily, and hopefully more peacefully.
And then a little bit later in the program, I will give a slideshow talk very briefly about perhaps the person in the 20th century who had the best liver of anybody living. That was Mahatma Gandhi, and his patience and courage and everything else. My talk is entitled Gandhi's Lessons for a Divided World.
And then we will also have a brief astrological forecast of 9-star key that we will share with you, so each of you can see perhaps, what is coming up for you in the new year. And finally, we will conclude with the World Peace Meditation, which I think is really important at this time in our world and perhaps even in our lives personally. And we will actually also have musical interludes from the Rising Star concerts, so a little bit of music in between.
Yeah, so why don't we begin with just a brief musical interlude. So please relax, enjoy, and hopefully some other friends will be joining us. Okay, so now Bettina will give a short presentation, as she said, on loving your liver, especially when things are so polarized.
Actually, before that, Alex, if you don't mind, let me talk a little bit about also housekeeping in terms of
Okay,
technical issues.
sure, that's right.
Sorry. And then we'll go into that. So, I mean, as I mentioned before, I will mute everybody during the presentations and then unmute everybody when it comes to question and answer sessions or times. But also, of course, you know, you can do that yourself. You can mute or unmute yourself by that button that may be in, I mean, on my screen, it's on the left lower corner of the Zoom window. And of course, you can also stop or start your video. And then you also have the choice to make it speaker view or gallery view. If you look at the right top corner of your screen, that's likely where it is. There is either a grid or, you know, it says speaker view, so you can change from one to the other, whichever works better for you. Let me see. We said earlier, we hope we will have no technical issues, and that is what we're going with. Everything will be fine. And I also would like to let you know, for the upcoming sessions, for the sessions during the week, that I will of course send new invites out for each individual session. So please do not try to use the same link to go into tomorrow's sessions, because they will not work. So for each session, I will send out a new invite, and I will send it between 2 hours to half an hour before each session. So you will have it at the, you know, prior to the beginning of the session. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so so Bettina will now give her talk on loving your liver, and I think it's going to be the perfect tune-up for the coming week with the impeachment trial, the Middle East crisis, and whatever else might be happening in our daily lives. So please, Bettina.
All right, thank you. Okay, let me move all of this a little bit. Okay. There. Okay, there we go. Finally. Sorry, took me a little while. So, loving your liver, as I said earlier, when in this time where I find that things are very polarized in our world, and of course there's two emotions that are really running the show. One is fear and one is rage and anger, but the liver is connected to the emotion of rage and anger. And so we are looking to make our liver, to help our liver a little bit. So the liver, and I'm, you know, just briefly going over this, the liver is responsible for hundreds of chemical actions that the body needs. It secretes chemicals that are used by other parts of the body. And according to Eastern Chinese medicine, the liver is compared to a general because it's directing so many functions. I put up a picture here. You can see the liver, you know, being more in the middle of the body on the right side. The bulk of it is on the right side. It's a dark red organ, meaning a lot of blood is flowing through the organ. The liver is in a healthy, average person about 3 pounds. Of course, can be a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, but it is, really heavy, very dense. And here we have the gallbladder. Liver and gallbladder, of course, are complementary, opposite organs and working together. And then what does our liver do? Our liver stores vitamins, sugars, fats, other nutrients. It processes nutrients from the food into a form that the body can use. The liver, of course, is a filter, breaks down harmful substances like alcohol, toxic chemicals, etc. It also removes waste products from our blood, like removing excessive cholesterol, which could harm us. Also removing, of course, toxins, which can be dangerous floating around in the system. And it regulates basically all the chemicals that the body needs. It produces also an important digestive juice, the bile, which is then gathered and stored in the gallbladder. And the liver is our personal fountain of youth. Really, it can help to reduce the aging of our bodies if the liver is in good condition. However, when, of course, our liver is overburdened by toxins, excess fat, etc., then it will go into survival mode to basically keep protecting our brain, heart, pancreas, and the other major organs to the best of its ability, but it will not work so much in terms of the anti-aging or rejuvenating the body as much. Our livers create especially coated antioxidants to help our body get rid of junk and toxins that keep our healthy cells from dying. And these coated antioxidants are critical for anti-aging because they are imprinted with specific information on how to repair, correct, and support the tissues and the organs throughout our body. And if we don't support our liver very much, then these specialized phytochemical components, these antioxidants, specially coated antioxidants, may not get sent out or may get sent out in very diminished amounts. And that means, we age more quickly and we have other problems in the body. And of course, also these specifically coated antioxidants that the liver produces keep our organs and tissue cells healthy and are also preventing our DNA from becoming weakened, altered, or frayed. So there's a lot that the liver does. In women, the liver has more than 500 functions. In men, just a little under 500 functions according to science. In women, it's a little more because it also interacts with the reproductive organ cycle. And let's see. So common causes for imbalances in the liver: overeating, that is certainly one of them. Overconsumption of heavy animal foods, meaning eating a lot of chicken, beef, pork, etc. But even also shellfish and too much fish can be a problem. Eating too many hard-baked flour products, too many roasted salted nuts, chips. So all of these foods that I've just mentioned are foods that, when we're looking at the spectrum of yin and yang, these are foods that have a more compacting, condensing effect, so more on the yang side of the spectrum. And then, of course, on the other side of the spectrum, if we can also create imbalances in the liver by over-consuming too many simple sugars, like ice cream, white sugar in various forms, also molasses, palm sugar, and other sugars, chocolate, excessive eating, excessive tropical fruits or tropical fruit juices, sodas, excessive vegetable quality oils, dressings, sauces, and of course alcohol. All of those can negatively impact the liver. And I'm not saying if we eat a piece of tropical fruit that it will immediately cause a problem. I'm talking about overconsumption. And similarly, overconsumption of salt, which makes the liver hard and tight, but also underconsumption of salt can be a problem in the liver. So, finding a medium, a good medium, finding the way that seems right, moderate amount of salt and minerals will be important. Another factor that really doesn't work well for the liver, because then the liver can't clean itself, can't do the repair that it does, is late night eating. The late night eating really interferes with having the liver rejuvenate itself, because at night, if we eat late at night, then digestion needs to happen, and that can be a problem, because then there is no good quality blood available to send out the repair team to clean everything. So then the liver easily gets stuck and burdened. But of course, also excessive drugs, medications, but even good quality supplements like, green supplements or something like that, various kinds of supplements, they oftentimes cause problems in the liver or make the liver tight. Lack of exercise is a problem, because a sedentary lifestyle affects our digestion, our absorption, and of course circulation in our body, and all of that negatively impacts the liver. So moving around, unless you really cannot, but doing some kind of exercise, even just walking around the house in the wintertime, but that will be very helpful. Excessive tension and stress is a problem for the liver. So trying to alleviate your stress and really seeing what stresses are real and what are self-created that we don't need. Because too many stress hormones, the liver has to break down the stress hormones, and that really burdens the liver. Of course, various diseases can also be a problem in the liver. So, chewing well is a really simple way to prevent overeating. If you can set yourself down at the table and at least for one meal, really chew well. And when I'm talking about chewing well, I'm talking about 50 times each mouthful or more, because when we're chewing well, usually the notification from the stomach to the brain that we're full is arriving in time, whereas if we're eating fast, we shovel it in. By the time that the feedback from the stomach to the brain comes, the stomach is way out here, and we have eaten just far too much. Of course, avoiding taking unnecessary medications, unnecessary drugs or supplements, and minimizing alcohol, that would also be helpful. But also avoiding chemicals in household products and body care products such as lotions or hair care products. Walking outside in nature really has a rejuvenating effect on the liver. So and of course, not only on the liver, on the whole body, and usually also on our emotional nature, making us feel much more relaxed, and everything, the meridians are starting to, the meridians, the energy pathways in the body are starting to flow again. And of course, also eating more naturally grown foods, organically grown foods, foods that don't contain a vast amount of either processing or even worse, toxins from chemicals that they, when we buy the regular foods, sometimes there's a lot of chemicals on them. Then minimizing simple sugars, incorporating instead more whole grains like brown rice, like millet, like quinoa, etc. Avoiding excessive animal foods, so really going towards a little bit more plant-based foods. Minimizing also fat consumption, because the liver is dealing with all the fat and the gallbladder, and that oftentimes causes a lot of trouble. So also raw vegetable oils, when you're thinking, oh, I'm eating salad. Salad is so healthy, it's so wonderful, and then you're pouring the oil over it. Not so much. So, not too much oils. Preferably for improving liver condition, eating leafy greens twice a day. Also like spring greens like dandelions, chives, scallions, leeks. They would be really wonderful to be included on a regular basis. Minimizing tropical origin foods and nightshade vegetables unless you're living in the tropics. Using moderate seasonings in terms of salt, but also in terms of spices, because if there's any kind of inflammation in the liver and you're using very spicy food, then the liver, the inflammation just gets a lot worse. Using a small amount of sea vegetables on a regular basis to provide the necessary minerals and trace minerals to stabilize our livers, as well as using fermented foods, because the liver really does well with eating fermented foods like sauerkraut or naturally fermented miso, or dill pickles, things like that. That would be very helpful. Also, mild sour flavor nourishes the liver. However, strong sour flavor, like too much strong sour flavor, like from very strong white vinegars or something, they just harden and tighten the liver. Whereas mild sour flavor, opens the liver up, makes it work easier. However, if there is virus or bacteria in the liver, then I would say being careful with any vinegars, or best avoiding any vinegars, because that can make it worse for the liver. Now, there are many ways that we can assess our liver conditions, and I'm not going to go into all the ways to assess it today. That just goes beyond where we're going today. But of course, if you find yourself short-fused easily, if you find yourself having outbursts of anger or shouting at people, at times even being full of rage, or if somebody exhibits road rage or has passive-aggressive behaviors, that is usually partly a liver problem. And also if somebody's walking around with their fists clenched all the time, that's a liver problem. Or knee troubles is usually indicating liver problems. So there are many, many ways to diagnose the liver. And again, I'm not going to go into all of that. But if you wish to, one way also to assess your liver is when you're lying down. When you're lying down and looking down, either wearing tight clothing or no clothing, when you're, at home in your bed or something, when you're looking down at your own rib cage, looking if, the right side of the rib cage is bigger or more expanded than the left side. If the right side is bigger, that is usually an indication that the liver is overly expanded and that there's stagnation. And whether the liver is hard or soft, the easiest way is to, second here, if you take your fingers and press in under the rib cage, if you can easily press in, that's an indication that the liver is generally relatively flexible, not very hard. If you can't put your fingers underneath there, then, or if you feel a lot of resistance, then it may be that the liver is hard and tight, and it could be either if the right and left rib cage are about the same height, then and the liver is very hard, then probably more extreme yang causes. However, if the right rib cage is a little bit more expanded and you feel tightness when placing your fingers under your right rib cage, then it's probably swelling and tightness that is arising. So for a hard liver condition that is more contracted from excess animal foods, from excess salts, eating lots of chips, hard-baked flour products, animal foods, etc., then using a little bit more shiitake for a little while could be helping, or also using a little bit of apple cider or barley malt, or making sour green applesauce could be very helpful. On the other hand, if there's swelling in the liver, inflammation, or if there's virus and bacteria, then umeboshi plum will be very good. Or the specific remedy called ume shokuzu, and you can look that up online or in many macrobiotic recipe booklets. So that is very helpful for an inflamed or fatty liver condition, or also eating miso soup with scallions. But actually, it's more for an inflamed liver condition, the fatty liver condition, to help release excess oils and fats from the liver using a carrot daikon drink, where you grate equal amounts of carrot and daikon to help to release the excess fats and oils. And again, you can find that online. Leafy greens juice can be very helpful to eliminate excess animal quality protein that we have eaten. Massaging and rotating both big toes 25 times in each direction, because rotating the big toe is also where the beginning and end point, the beginning point for the liver is. So rotating that will stimulate the meridian and thus send the energy to the liver. Eye exercises, according to Oriental understanding, the eyes and the liver are connected. So eye exercises also will stimulate liver function. If the liver is hard and tight, maybe a short time using a hot, wet towel on the liver to relax the liver, and then followed by a cool plaster, like a leafy greens plaster.
Something got stuck.
I know. Bettina? Can you hear me? Yeah, we're having technical difficulties. Can you hear me? Can you raise your hand if you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. Unfortunately, this is the kind of thing we've had with the last few days. So hopefully she'll just probably have to dial in again, and we'll pick it up from there because we're in the middle of a snowstorm. Anybody have any comments or questions while we're waiting for Bettina to get back online? I don't know if I can, oh, hey, Lino.
Hi. Hello. You look good.
Oh, well, so do you. You look like you're a race car driver.
Well,
Helmet.
I have to wear a hat. It's like you. Anyway, my brain function better if I have a hat on top.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I
it.
learned from some friend of
Yeah,
mine.
it kind of energizes your crown chakra or something.
Yes.
Well, it keeps the brain at even temperature, you know?
Yeah. Well, that maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. Bettina, are you there?
I am there.
First to Bettina.
She's
I
giving
am
very,
here.
very, very
Okay. Okay, please continue.
Okay, so let me go back to the share.
Do you want more soup?
No, I'm waiting for.
I mean, because I could still hear you, but obviously you didn't hear me because I could hear you where somebody said, "Oh, it got stuck," and Alex, I heard you. But so where did we leave off?
Well, you were going through the remedies. I think
Number 5.
I think you did.
Number 5, leafy greens plaster. Okay, thank you. So leafy greens plaster is very helpful for, relieving stagnation and drawing out toxins from the liver. If it feels too cold in the winter, a leafy greens plaster can be made by even just taking several cabbage leaves and rolling them with a rolling pin so that the juices somewhat coming out, that they become mushy and the juices are somewhat released, and then putting several leaves of cabbage onto your liver. And then maybe if it feels cold, putting a little bit of a hot water bottle on top, that can be very effective. All right. And
Very good, Bettina.
well, thank you. That is my short presentation, and let me stop the share. Very good. So let us go to, the next, Alex, would you like to start talking about 9-star key, or do you want me to start?
I can start. Yeah, we're both going to say a few words about 9-star key. I think many of you are familiar. It's sometimes called feng shui astrology. And it's just a simple energetic system to understand yin and yang movement throughout the year, throughout many years, throughout the spiral of history. But the new year begins on February the 4th. What is that, next week? And so this is really appropriate time to look at what's going to come in the following year. I think Bettina is going to go over the months. Is that right, Bettina?
Well, yeah, just over the year. I'm not going to go over
the year in general. All right. Well, what I'd like to focus on in my a couple minutes, though, is just to talk a little bit about what we can expect with the impeachment trial, which I think is pretty much the #1 news story in the country and around the world. As many of you know, this past year, 2019, and actually this is the last week because it goes through January, was what we call an 8th soil year, governed by 8th soil energy, which is a very powerful, shocking, and unpredictable energy. And I think we would all agree that this past year has certainly met that standard. It's been very hard to predict, and there's been a lot of erratic weather events, just like what's happened with the royal family in England this week, where Harry and Meghan, have flown the coop, so to speak. And there's a very fascinating macrobiotic story behind that. that maybe we'll have a chance to talk about at some point this week. It was actually one of the biggest issues between Meghan and Queen Elizabeth. It literally turned on macrobiotic food that she was going to, she wanted to have at her wedding. But anyway, enough of that. Let's move on. So when we look at President Trump's energy, he's what we call a 9-fire. And of course, there are many types of 9-fire, but his 9-fire is particularly passionate, fiery, dramatic, and charismatic, which are all very positive qualities. But his type also has a tendency toward impulsiveness, recklessness, kind of adolescent behavior, and has trouble focusing on any one thing at a time. And I think, again, we can, it's not just Trump. The people who have that particular energetic makeup tend to have those kind of personality traits. And so in February, when the new year begins, and of course, we can already feel the energy of it right now, as the impeachment trial heats up and the 9-star key year begins, as I said, Trump moves into what we call the 7-metal position for the year. Now, 7-metal is a very nice, peaceful, calm, joyful energy. So overall, he may actually have a very potential for a very good year. But unfortunately for everyone who is in that position in 2020, who are 9 fires, they are opposite 5 soil in the east, in the 3 tree position. And that's what we call ankensatsu. And that's a very unique aspect that means dark killing sword. And the general idea is that a person can be struck down from behind without warning, suddenly, and that there's very little he or she can do to protect themselves in that position, except being extremely careful, mindful, prayerful, or whatever it might be. So Trump is moving into a very vulnerable, dangerous position. Now, it's not by any means given or predestined that he's going to be convicted by the Senate and replaced. I don't necessarily foresee that. But I think there's a very good chance that the trial will not go his way and that new witnesses, as the Democrats are asking, will come and testify, and even new witnesses that we don't even know about may turn up, or some of his own cabinet or staff will turn against him and testify. And so I would not be at all surprised that some of the Republicans break ranks and vote to convict him, so that it would be a bipartisan judgment. Another possibility in this position for Trump and other 9 fires this year is a major health crisis that can strike him down from behind. And I certainly don't wish this on President Trump or anybody else, and sincerely hope that he changes his dial and lifestyle. But in his case, he's an obese male, he's in his mid-70s, he lives on junk food, and his idea of exercising is to tweet his thumbs, very early in the morning, what we call a discharge of excess energy through his hands, actually. So that, anyway, let's hope he makes major changes, because that's really on the horizon if he's not careful. So we'll stay tuned, see how things unfold day to day over the next month. So over and out, over to you, Bettina.
All right. So let me see here. Give me a moment to, this is, here we go. So here is a short information on what's coming up for you. And so I have gone through all the different 9 stars, and you can see which number you are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you look on the left here under, I have listed the years that you were born. If you are a 1 water born after February 4th, 1936, then this applies to you, or 1945, etc. If you were born, however, before February 4th, and that is for each of the upcoming numbers as well, if you're born before February 4th, 1936 in this case, then you would count yourself as the previous year. So you would look at being born 1935. Okay, so in terms of the water personalities are flexible, adaptable, easygoing. They will be in the 8th soil house. The 8th soil house is a little bit also unpredictable, can be unexpected or challenging things arising not this month, but this year. And at the same time, unexpected or surprising solutions may present themselves. So there could be a silver lining, but there could be also a lot of things, changes that come your way that may be challenging, but of course, looking in hindsight, it might be always for the best. But so just be aware, it could be a little bit rocky at times. 2 soil personalities, if you were born after February 4th, 1935, can you still hear me? 1935, 1945, 1944, etc., then you will be in the 9th fire house. That is a fabulous house. That's a house where, everything is bright and active. It's ideal for arts, travel, entertaining, communication, public events, activities. I mean, you'll be probably going all over the place. Just beware of overspending and overstretching yourself, because if you do too much, then you can easily exhaust your energy and, not, and get sick, basically. The 3 tree personality is this year in the 1 water house. And the 1 water house corresponds with night and winter. And last year you probably were, having a good year and being busy and doing all kinds of things, because last year you were in the 9th fire house. But so this year it will be making balance with previous year's activities, and it is a year of more rest, recuperation, renewal, quiet pursuits, spiritual pursuits, meditation are very helpful at this time of year. And I would also suggest that any major decisions would be better delayed until the following year or years. Then 4 tree personalities will be in the 2 soil house. The 2 soil house is a good time to support and nourish friends and family, to engage in food-related pursuits, also education. It is, however, not ideal to begin a new enterprise or business, especially not on your own. If you, however, work as part of a team or committee, then things can turn out well for you, because this is really about making connections with others. 5 soil personalities will be in the 3 tree house this year. The 3 tree house is really excellent for starting any new venture, also for traveling, for active progress, new breakthroughs. It is really a time to actively pursue your goals and ambitions, just because this is also the position where this is corresponding to tree energy, meaning liver energy, be careful of being too assertive. You could easily run over other people's opinions, or they feel like you're too strong, coming on too strong, which might backfire. 6 metal personalities, and I'm a 6 metal, will be in the 4 tree house. And the 4 tree house is also sort of like the magic carpet ride. Things that started in the previous years will grow, develop, and prosper. You will probably be more eloquent than usual. Just be mindful of not going into too many directions, because otherwise you could lose track and nothing gets done. 7 metal personalities will be in the 5 soil house. This is karma checkup time. Everything and anything can come towards you, because you are this time, this year, in the center. And so it's very important. In this position, you can actually strengthen your whole position for the next 9 years, but it is very important that you address everyone and everything equally, or at least proportionately. So very, a lot of things coming at you, just, being aware. The 8 soul personality will be in the 6 metal house. The 6 metal house is the time of, similar to the time of harvest coming to fruition. It's a good time to focus, to complete things, to, realize your dreams. Generally a very stable and strong position. Probably not the best, probably not the best in terms of a lot of social activity, but if you have a goal to do something, this will be, easy to accomplish. 9 fire personalities will be in the 7 metal house. In the 7 metal house, this is a little bit more social than the 6 metal house. So, and you will be more social than the previous years. You can easily communicate, and also you can reap rewards from past seeds that you have sown in prior years. So it will be also a good time of harvest. And that shall conclude my very short overview of the 9-star key forecast for hopefully everybody. And if you didn't have time to see clearly, you can certainly watch the recorded version of it later, so that you can take a look at what is going on for you, or which year you are. Shall we take a short musical break?
Yeah, let's listen to another Celtic song.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so next on our agenda is we have a little slideshow, and we're going to run through the presentations for the week. Just very briefly, we have 15 presentations, as Bettina said, and as maybe some of you have seen the schedule. These are leading macrobiotic teachers, counselors, chefs, artists, writers from all over the world. And Bettina, do you want to post it from your side?
Sure, I'll post it. Give me a moment here. Okay, there we go. All right, so it starts tomorrow with Warren Cramer, who will be speaking at 12 noon about health stuck in a rut, how to take your health to the next level. And of course, Warren worked closely with Michio Kushi, so he has real insight in macrobiotics. And also in all of his presentations, his vigor from one of his previous careers, being a professional tennis player, comes through. So it's really always wonderful to hear Warren speak.
Yeah, then at 2 p.m. tomorrow, for the second presentation of the day, Bettina will speak on smart vegan seafood, the secret life of ocean plants. And in her presentation, she will discuss the ins and outs of wakame, kombu, arame, nori, and all the other delectable sea vegetables. And she will be appearing in an elegant seaweed wrap that the sea nymphs have woven especially for her in their underwater crystal palace. But all kidding aside, it promises to be an informative and entertaining afternoon, and you'll learn a lot about the secret lives of the wonderful plants in our oceans and seas.
Thank you. And then on Monday night, tomorrow night at 7 Eastern time, of course, we will have Vernon Verona speaking on practical solutions for recovering and strengthening our intuitive sensitivity. Now, Vern's current project that he's working on is making life more delicious bite by bite from the Kitchen Kids Academy. And he's helping, kids learning to cook, but so he's always active and engaged and doing things. And of course, Vern, he is the best imitator of Michio. If you want to hear what Michio sounded like, listen to Vern, and I am surely hoping that he will give us a short presentation of imitating Michio. He is really fabulous, but I'm also really looking forward to his talk on practical solutions, because we all need practical solutions, and we do need to strengthen our intuitive sensitivity. This is the time to do it, because when we're more connected with our true life direction, with our intuition, then everything can work out more elegantly and easily.
Okay, then the first talk on Tuesday will be by Bill and Marlene Watson-Terra from London. I think, as most of you know, they're an amazing macro power couple, and they'll be sharing the podium. They were our special guest at the Macrobiotic Summer Conference this past year at Eastover, our new home here in Berkshire County. And the picture, you might wonder why Bill's wearing a crown. The picture was actually taken during the conference skit with Bettina, myself, Ed, many of the other friends. And Bill was portraying, Prince Charles, and she was the, Duchess of Sussex, or no, maybe that's Meghan, anyway, one of the duchesses. And it was a hilarious skit. Actually, it touched on that macrobiotic tie-in with the Queen that I mentioned a little bit earlier. It really happened that Queen Elizabeth objected when Megan asked to have macrobiotic food served at her wedding, and that may be the genesis of their falling out. Anyway, we did a skit for the summer conference, and they both played. So they're going to be talking about Marlene's case, The Natural Woman, and Bill is, of course, one of our leading macrobiotic teachers and philosophers, and he has a new book out that we'll be talking about during the week. So it'll be a wonderful performance. I can't wait for this one.
And then on Tuesday at 2 p.m. we will go to Ed Esco, who will be sharing about light food, eating for consciousness. Eating for consciousness and light food. Light food, of course, is meaning that we are having the light radiate from within, from our etheric bodies through our physical bodies, and Ed will be, you know, letting us know how we can do that, what we can do to create, you know, have the light from within shine through us. I'm sure this will be a fabulous presentation, as Ed always has some new insight that he's sharing with us.
Okay, then on Tuesday in the evening, Jeffrey Reel will be talking about uncommon sense, the politics of macrobiotic principles. And Jeffrey, as many of you may know, is a longtime environmental activist. He's a tireless crusader on issues related to global warming and climate change. He was Micho's secretary in Boston for many years. And he recently moved to the Vermont from the Berkshires and is living in solitude, something like Henry David Thoreau. And so for penetrating insights and the various social dimensions of macrobiotics, Jeffrey will be talking about this. Again, it's another presentation on the top of my list for sure.
Looking forward to it. And then on Wednesday at noon, we'll talk with Dr. Neil Barnett, who is the Director of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And he is a leading plant-based medical researcher. He was also the recipient of the Michio Kushi Peace Prize 2 years ago. We had him have a talk and the ceremony at our summer conference 2 years ago. He's a fabulous speaker. I'm sure we can learn so much, and especially with women and hormones, there's a lot going wrong these days with all of these toxins that we're exposed to. So I'm sure he has some valuable insight, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then Wednesday afternoon after the break, Virginia Harper will be talking about Crohn's and colitis, modern disease, traditional cures. I think many of you know Virginia. She healed herself of Crohn's about 25 years ago and is now really one of the leading digestive counselors for all kinds of things, not just Crohn's. I know that, when there's a really difficult case that comes up, I always refer them for digestive things to Virginia, and I think Bettina and other friends do likewise. She's a real miracle worker. We had her many times at the Kushi Institute. She gave whole week-long programs, and at the end of the programs, everybody was in tears. I've never seen anything like it. So really another program not to be missed.
And then evening of Wednesday, we have Jessica Porter. How healthy are you? And Jessica always is also giving real deep insight. And just like Vernon Verona, she can be very much a comedian, comic, and makes things really a lot of fun. Now, she is the author of Hipchik's Guide to Macrobiotics. I think many people are familiar with this. And I think will be allowing us to be surprised as to where she will go with this topic.
Then on Thursday noon for our first presentation, Melanie Waxman will be speaking on weight loss, why diets don't work, but healthy eating does. Now, Melanie is a longtime macrobiotic teacher and chef and counselor. She's a mother of 5. She's the resident counselor at Shaw, which is a large macro holistic spa in Spain. And I think while most of us who are attending this conference have hopefully normal weights, if we've been observing macrobiotics for more than 2 weeks, I think our weight has probably begun to come down. But if not, this session will help you plan a simple, effective weight loss regimen. But even more importantly, this is the class to invite all of your relatives, all of your friends, all of your co-workers. 2/3 of all adults in this country are overweight or obese. So now's the chance, to talk to a real specialist who's got a practical program. They may not listen to you, but they're more likely to listen to Melanie. So please come and join.
And on the and that is Bob Carr Jr. on spreading self-development and the mechanics of spiritual progress. Now, Bob Carr is from the Czech, he's originally from the US, Cleveland Center, Macrobiotic Center, but he is now established in the Czech Republic. And he is so down to earth. He has a farm there going and a macrobiotic center as well, but he's really down to earth and speaking almost, I would say, always channeling from the heart, but really fabulous insights and how to make things work and what is really at the heart of the matter, what is really important. So I'm also looking forward to this presentation. And then Alex. Alex?
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. Yeah, Thursday evening at 7 p.m., I'll be talking on smart vegan politics, nutrition in the era of Trump, impossible burgers, and climate change. I will be looking at a wide range of current nutritional trends, particularly the vegan trends that are now taking the world by storm, especially the Impossible Burger. This is the new plant-based vegan burger that Burger King introduced in 7,000 restaurants a few months ago. And for this talk, I went to the Burger King in Lenox, very close to us, in order to taste it for myself. I didn't want to talk about it and criticize it without actually tasting it. Or maybe I would have a good experience. Anyway, I tried to have an open mind like the senators in the impeachment trial. And so I'll tell you my reaction. It was a really amazing experience that I, just to get to that place and to try the Impossible Burger. So I'll give you my thoughts about that.
Yeah, he has shared already some with me and quite fascinating. So I think you'll really enjoy it. And then we have a little bit of a change coming because we originally had Christina Perello scheduled, but last minute she had a family emergency and had to, bow out. And so instead, Jane Kincannon-Stanches has been willing to take the slot, and she is going to speak about, of course, something that is the 9-year cycle right now is a 2 soil cycle, meaning female energy. And so she's speaking on the essential female energy for personal and planetary wellness. And of course, even each of us, we have some female or feminine and masculine energies within us, but I'm sure it will be a really informative and cutting edge presentation that we can glean a lot from for this also next 9-year cycle.
Okay, then on Friday afternoon, Denny Waxman will be speaking about awakening your natural healing ability. I think everybody knows Denny is one of the great pioneers in the macrobiotic community. And with his lovely wife, Susan, directs the Strengthening Health Institute in Philadelphia. And in this presentation, Denny will share his latest insights into developing your natural healing abilities and unlocking your highest potential.
And finally, we have Dr. Janet Lacey, who has also previously given a presentation on our Miso Happy. And I mean, her presentation was fabulous. So I'm really looking forward to her presentation on great things that come in small packages, which are, you know, talking about iron, calcium, zinc, meaning the minerals. And yeah, I mean, she is a fabulous presenter, so not to be missed, I'm sure. And then let's talk for a moment. Of course, upcoming, we have our summer conference this year. The summer conference has been shortened a bit, but then we have added another add-on workshop or add-on conference, the Spiritual Roots Getaway. Alex, please.
Yeah, we're going to have the conference this year rather than the end of July. It's been moved to the middle of August because more people have time, more vacation time in August. And also we've cut the summer conference from 6 days to 4 days. So it's 1/3 less costly. You can save $800 by coming just to the summer conference than the last 3 years. And then we've tacked on the Spiritual Roots, a retreat or getaway. And we're putting together a really fantastic project. We'll be going to the South River Miso Company, where they grow all their own rice, much less their miso. And we're going to have a meditation there. We're then going to go to in the afternoon, a meditation and a very special ceremony at Aveline Cushy's new resting place. After the Cushy Institute closed, the family moved to her burial site and her daughter Lily. And so this will be the first recognition of that change taking place. And we're lining up, various religious personalities and macrobiotic friends. It's going to be like a reunion. So not to be missed.
Tanglewood also, and so.
Yeah, going out to Be Zen restaurant. Yeah, so it's a real wonderful celebration. So check out our main website, macrobioticsummerconference.com. We're just finishing the final pricing with Eastover, and that'll be posted on our site and on the Eastover site probably by the, early February, maybe 10 days to 2 weeks from now. And there'll be an early bird discount. So you can save at least $200, on already discounted summer conference. So we hope to see all of you there. It's our major program of the year. And the schedule has not been finalized for the teachers, but many of our teachers for the winter conference will be there, plus many new ones. I know we've got a fantastic cooking teacher coming from, what is it?
Kuala Lumpur.
From Kuala Lumpur, yeah. Longtime macrobiotic teacher from there. And anyway, it's going to be very exciting. So please join.
Great. So let's take a short musical interlude just for a moment and not exactly what I had thought, but Okay. And now we will go to Alex's presentation on Gandhi's Lessons for a Divided World. So Alex, you will share that from your end?
Okay, if I can remember how to hit the share button.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have it open on your desktop?
It's not open.
Okay, then you need to stop share and you need to open it first on your desktop.
Okay, sorry. It's on the desktop, but it wasn't open.
Yeah, you need to open it, otherwise it's
Sorry.
not be.
Okay, should I open it all the way?
No, you just need to open it up. You can open it once it's in share, but I mean, it
Oh.
just needs to be open on your desktop.
Okay, sorry. So now I go into share.
Mhm.
Share.
And now you can put it into presentation mode.
Oh, let's see.
Down here on the right lower,
Like
there's
that?
that.
Can you see
Yep.
it?
That's it, perfect.
Okay, yep, sorry. All right. So my talk this afternoon is entitled Gandhi, Lessons for a Divided World. When I was growing up, Gandhi was the leading figure in my family's personal pantheon. My father was a Unitarian minister and would spend summers in India visiting Gandhi's associates. He wrote several books on Gandhi and helped to introduce his techniques to a young Baptist preacher in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955 by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. In my college and graduate school years, including a year in India studying Gandhian philosophy, I engaged in many nonviolent protests, marches, sit-ins, sanctuaries, and other activities related to racial justice and peace. I went to the March on Washington in 1963, the March on Selma in 1965, and various nonviolent peace activities during the Vietnam War. This afternoon, I would like to explore briefly the historical roots of Gandhian nonviolence, including its dietary dimension, and draw lessons for its relevance in the 21st century. Reaching to the ocean floor, Gandhi lifted up a lump of salty mud early on the morning of April 6, 1930, and declared, "With this, I am shaking the foundations of the British Empire." After boiling it in seawater and producing sea salt, Gandhi called upon Hindus, Muslims, and Indians of all religions and castes to defy the British monopoly on salt and to make their own. Under British imperial rule, Indians were forbidden to make salt, as well as cloth, steel, ships, and most other basic commodities and products in their own country, and they were required to purchase them at exorbitant prices from halfway around the world. The Salt March constituted the greatest nonviolent mass action in history. Across the subcontinent, millions of Indians heeded the call of the Mahatma and made their own salt for the first time in centuries. Though it took on India another 17 years to win independence, the Salt March that Gandhi led over the course of 24 days in that spring transfixed the world and popularized civil disobedience as an effective tool of political and social change. Throughout history, resistance to tyranny has been largely violent and bloody. In some cases, the oppressed triumphed, as in the American Revolution. In many others, they were annihilated, as in the conquest of the northern kingdom of Israel by the invading Assyrians thousands of years ago. In still others, the revolution turned more ruthless and authoritarian than the ancient regime, as in the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the world map was redrawn by emerging nationalism. In Europe, modern Germany, Italy, Turkey, and other nations coalesced as absolute monarchies fell, and the Austrian, Holy Roman, Ottoman, and other empires disintegrated. In the Western Hemisphere, revolutions in Haiti, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and other countries threw off the yoke of French, Spanish, and Portuguese rule. In the Far East, imperial struggles and civil uprisings in China, Japan, and elsewhere enabled warlords, militarists, and other authoritarian leaders and new dynasties to rise to power. Gandhi's nonviolent campaigns in South Africa and then later in India added a new alternative paradigm to the violent, rebellious model of social transformation that had largely governed until then. The British Empire. India's fabulous wealth was legendary, and along with China and the Spice Islands, constituted a magnet for European diplomatic missions, trading caravans, and explorers and navigators for thousands of years. At the time of the British arrival in the early 17th century, India was the most prosperous country in the entire world, with 23% of the world's economy. China was second, France was third, and Britain a very distant eighth. In India, destruction of the textile manufacturing industry was the primary vehicle of imperial subjugation. Instead of making her own cloth and garments, India was forced at gunpoint to send its raw cotton and other fibers to England, and then purchase finished products from industrial mills in Manchester, Lancashire, and other parts of Britain. By targeting cloth, Britain struck at the heart of the Indian economy. Women traditionally spun at home while men tilled in the fields. As in China, where girls and women customarily spun homemade silk, India girls and women made cotton yarn and wove cloth that could supplement household income and provide an economic cushion in times of flood, crop failure, and other natural disasters. Khadi. In bringing down the British Empire, Gandhi targeted khadi, or homespun organic fabric, as well as sea salt, as the signature symbol of self-reliance, the dignity of labor and independence. Gandhi learned the art of spinning. He improved and manufactured the chakra, or spinning wheel, in his ashram, and he devoted up to an hour a day to spinning yarn and weaving cloth. Hand-spun and woven khadi was lighter, cooler in hotter seasons, warmer in colder ones, and more comfortable than milled cloth. It also provided spinners with a modest income. For more than its utilitarian value, spinning symbolized self-sovereignty and productivity. It also instilled calm, perseverance, and solidarity with millions of other spinners around the country. In the 1920s, Gandhi introduced spinning as part of the national movement to boycott British goods. Over the decades, it became a cornerstone of revitalizing village industries in rural areas. Over the decade, whether leading marches, visiting prime ministers and viceroys, or languishing in prison, Gandhi dutifully spun yarn every day, much of which was auctioned by his supporters to raise funds for the independence movement. Across the Indian subcontinent, millions of Indians emulated his lead, and wearing khadi became a badge of honor and patriotism. Goddesses and heroines in India, such as Parvati, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga, Sita, Draupadi, and many others, played a prominent role in Indian myth and legend from ancient times. However, as in Mesopotamia, Israel, and Greece, male gods and heroes ultimately came to dominate the Indian pantheon, and epic literature, and females were ruthlessly subordinated. On the progressive side, the British instituted several measures improving the lot of girls and women. They reduced some of the harshest practices of patriarchal Hinduism. They prohibited the immolation of widows on their deceased husbands' funeral or cremation pyres. Subsequent British acts permitted widows to remarry. They had been forbidden to. They curbed female infanticide. They raised the age of consent for child marriages. Gandhi, for example, was betrothed at age 7 years old, married at 13, and totally unprepared for the responsibilities of marriage and a family. Although Gandhi supported social legislation to guarantee emancipation, dignity, and equal rights for men and women, he ruled his own family and ashram as an unyielding patriarch. He controlled the activities and movements of his wife, Kasturba, and other female members of his entourage. He made everyone, male or female, under his roof pledge to abstain from sex. He also forbade his sons from marrying whom they liked and following their own dharma or path. As George Orwell drolly observed in his essay on Gandhi, quote, "Saints should always be judged guilty until they are proved innocent," unquote. Probably Gandhi's greatest contribution to the equality of the sexes was to popularize spinning, traditionally the work of girls and women. He required all of his male relatives, associates, and colleagues to spin daily. Despite much grumbling, most of them complied and even came to enjoy it. From an energetic perspective, the wildly divergent food patterns of Britain, which was a meat and sugar country, and India, which was vegetarian, underlie and help to explain their centuries-long dynamic and history. As the leader of the scientific, agricultural, and industrial revolutions, England consumed more beef and more sugar, the yin and yang poles of the modern diet, than any other country. And this combination allowed the nation to contract more inwardly and to expand more outwardly, creating the world's greatest modern empire. Through its extreme way of eating, its industrial might, its military superiority, a tiny little island off the coast of Europe managed to colonize large parts of North America, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Australia. Food and diet played a central role in Gandhi's personal life and political agenda. For the most part, Gandhi's food pattern consisted of whole grain brown rice and roti, a bread made from whole wheat or millet. He also had leafy greens, fruits and nuts, and other plant foods at every meal. His major dietary flaw was taking goat's milk for exhaustion. He very much lamented breaking his vegan vows, but he felt it was necessary for his health. Unfortunately, tofu remained unknown to him during his lifetime, and otherwise he would have probably taken that, which was a much better quality of soy than the goat's milk. On the other hand, goat's milk, as some of you may know, contributes to a very stubborn goat-like personality, and that maybe helped him in his negotiations with Winston Churchill and the British for independence and human rights, because he was successful. He brought down the British Empire. You look at that little tiny island off the coast of Europe. Gandhi was the one that put them back in the rightful position of being a little island. And India began its rise to ascendancy, as well as the whole independent struggle around the world against imperialism. Totally amazing. So overall, Gandhi's dietary approach was sound and contributed to his vitality, compassion, and wisdom. Whole grains fostered the incredible stamina he exhibited as commander-in-chief of a nonviolent army of hundreds, thousands, and eventually millions of people. At his ashram in Sevagram, he typically awoke at 4 a.m. He engaged in community prayers. He wrote and worked until 7 a.m. After breakfast, he cut vegetables, he ground grain, he cleaned the kitchen or latrine for an hour. The rest of the morning was devoted to receiving visitors, responding to a voluminous worldwide correspondence, writing articles for his 3 magazines, and attending to personal hygiene. His lunch took place about 11 a.m., and then there was another round of visitors and correspondence, followed by a half hour or hour of spinning. At dinner, fell around 5 p.m. There were evening prayers, usually drawn from Sanskrit, Buddhist, Islamic, Jewish, and Christian scriptures, and bedtime fell about 9. On Mondays, Gandhi observed a day of silence. He would not speak, but he continued to work, and he communicated by writing or a little blackboard if necessary. And during the year, he traveled incessantly, attending party congresses, leading marches and campaigns, meeting with British officials. Gandhi was jailed multiple times and served nearly 6 years in prison, where he also observed a rigorous schedule. Forming the foundation of Gandhi's diet, brown rice, wheat, and millet contributed to his patience, balance, and tranquility. Dietary fiber creates moral and spiritual fiber, and Gandhi's social conscience was highly developed, as his heartfelt devotion to the peasantry, farmers, outcasts, and the poor with whom he lived testified. I guess I just did the daily round. The power of holding to truth and justice was nowhere more astonishingly demonstrated than Gandhi's response to the communal rioting that broke out as India and Pakistan were partitioned into 2 countries when the British left in 1947. Following independence, widespread killings, desecration of temples and mosques, and looting of homes and shops broke out among Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of people were killed in this terrible era. Following the breakout, Gandhi hurried to Bengal and Bihar, 2 states where the massacres were at the greatest, and he brought together peacefully representatives of all sides. He announced in Calcutta, India's largest city at that time, which was beset with mob rule and arson, he announced an indefinite fast until peace was restored. And noting his own frailty, the 77-year-old nonviolent activist declared that he did not mind dying in the effort. The 10-day fast moved residents of Calcutta to action. The entire police force of the city joined in a sympathy fast and refused to eat until tensions eased. A group of Hindu and Muslim robbers and thieves, one of the biggest gangs in the city, came to visit him. They lay down their knives and their other weapons at his feet, and they begged forgiveness. The city's religious leaders signed a compact never again to allow communal strife to return. After Gandhi broke his fast, peace was restored and catastrophe averted. Lord Mountbatten, the last British viceroy of India, marveled, quote, "In the Punjab, we have 55,000 soldiers and large-scale rioting on our hands and can't keep control. In Bengal, our force consists of 1 man, Gandhi, and there is no more rioting." Amazing. And then several months later, in January 1948, Gandhi repeated this astonishing feat in New Delhi as the entire city was about to erupt into flames. He embarked on another fast unto death, and Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and Christians came together to pledge peace. Less than 2 weeks later, Gandhi was assassinated by an extreme Hindu nationalist who regarded the Mahatma as too supportive of Muslims. As the British Empire ended, an estimated 1 million people had died in the communal violence. Another 10 million lost their homes and land, but peace returned following Gandhi's fast and his own tragic death. The science and art of satyagraha that he bequeathed the world was later taken up by civil rights leaders, by Martin Luther King, by human rights and freedom struggles all over the world. It's often said that nonviolence is impractical and doesn't work. Well, guess what? According to the historians, over half the modern world lives in nations that were liberated or won their independence through nonviolent means. This includes India. This includes the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, which at the end under Gorbachev was largely nonviolent. It includes the Philippines. It includes South Africa under Mandela. It includes many of the countries in North Africa and the Middle East when the Arab Spring broke out. Of course, there's a long way to go, but it brought constructive, peaceful change. Billions of people today have benefited from Gandhi's legacy. But the ironic thing, as we start 2020, is that India, Gandhi's homeland, has abandoned his teaching big time. It has developed nuclear weapons. It is promoting Hindu superiority over Muslims and has an expansionist foreign policy, as its invasion of Kashmir last summer shows, and the recent unrest that is gripping the country every day. There are riots throughout India. It's on fire. So India, like many other countries, including our own, is in danger of turning really violent and warlike. Indeed, the party in power today in India owes its origin and philosophy to the group that assassinated Gandhi in 1948. Really, yin turns to yang and yang turns to yin. There could not be a greater example at a social level of something turning totally upside down. So in conclusion, in a divided world beset by global warming, by climate change, by digital dictatorships, by terrorism, by its resurgence of the nuclear arms race, by all of the abuse of children and women, Gandhian nonviolence is more relevant than ever before. And as Gandhi taught, peace and justice begin with you, begin with me. As he famously said, be the change you want to see in the world.
All right, thank you, Alex. What a wonderful presentation. And certainly I think this is exactly what, we are looking at today. Be the change you wish to see in the world is really, really important. And in that sense, I would like to also do a world peace meditation next. And of course, when we're looking at there are many world peace meditations that are out there. And I have found most of them not that effective or even backfiring, although there are other meditations. Let's say recently a lot of people were meditating for the Australian bushfire to stop. And, where they were not predicting that it would happen, it actually did occur and stopped. Suddenly it was raining where they were not predicting any rain. So things can change, and we all can make a difference, especially if we're coming together in groups again. And for peace, however, because we all and each individual has a different definition of peace within us. That's why I have found that peace meditations are often not that effective. So the one thing I think to understand about peace is that peace comes from a feeling of safety and security. And of course, because we have different needs for safety and security, it needs to be different. But we can all agree that, safety and security, I think, needs to be at the basis of our world in order for peace to arise. So I would ask you to join me on this meditation. Give me a moment here. And this meditation, let me also put a little bit of music on. in just a moment. Mhm. And so I would ask you to simply join in the meditation. You can close your eyes, feel, sit somewhere where you're relaxed and go with it. And this is about each of us adding our personal piece to peace. And I think that's very important because there is no, peace that is right, or again, peace has different meanings for different people. So adding our personal piece will be important. So allow yourselves to join in, and I think we can have impact by adding our own dynamic to the greater community effort, and then we can allow that positive energy to reverberate out into the ethers and come back to us, by looking also at our what is happening in the world. And so, when you come together in groups, not only today, but also in your own lives, come together and, share this way of coming together and helping to create through a similar goal, because then we can have a lot more impact. seeing that they are planting it, and then letting it go. And it is now time to coming back, knowing that we all have safely engaged in adding our piece to piece, and you can repeat it easily on your own and share it with your friends. And I hope you have enjoyed this way of creating peace that is not going to ensue in, a detrimental dynamic where there's sometimes when I have found peace meditations, the viewpoint is too small, and then what happens is, yes, there will be peace, but only after a tragedy occurs, an outpouring of love after a tragedy, and we wish to prevent that. We wish to have peace, just moving in a more peaceful direction, moving in a more joyful direction, and we can create the life of our dreams. So thank you, everybody. And let's talk for a moment about our upcoming projects. Alex?
Yeah, anyway, thank you for that beautiful meditation, Bettina. It was really wonderful and very tranquil, and I felt at first that I was in a Christmas tree ornament. But then it transformed into a little like the world, the whole world. And then I was in the world for a while, being one with the world. And then, one of those things at the top transformed into a dove that flew off the wild blue yonder. So anyway, it was really beautiful. But maybe, Bettina, before we do the final announcement, maybe we should take some Q&A or some comments by our friends.
You are absolutely right. Let's give me a second here. Okay, so I have unmuted everybody, and of course you can go ahead and mute yourself again. But if anybody has any comments, feel free to share.
I have a question. This
Go
is
ahead.
Elizabeth. Alex, you mentioned the relationship between fiber in grains and moral fiber.
Yes.
Can you say more about that? And I especially like in relation to other diets that are around.
Yeah, well, I mean, on the one hand, when I say dietary fiber equals more in spiritual fiber, it's kind of a pun on words. But actually, when you think about it, fiber, basically means eating whole grains or fibrous vegetables. And when we do this, this gives us steady, balanced energy, having fiber in our diet. So in other words, we're able to follow the middle way, the golden mean, avoid extremes, be slow and steady, and all of those great virtues, that have prevailed in East and West from time immemorial. I think that's partly what I mean by that. And then the other thing with fiber as the center of your diet or grains is that opens up the channel between heaven and earth so that the energy flows freely, unlike when you're eating, heavy animal food or sugar or, extreme yin, in which then the channel either becomes blocked or not strong enough, for that energy to flow. And what we call conscience, which is what Gandhi was all about, is simply, becoming one with the energy of heaven and earth, that streaming energy that's coming in. And fiber is the channel, you might say, for that. So that would be my response.
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If there are not, then I think we will go to the final part and reiterating real quick our summer conference events, summer conference from August 12th to 16th, and then the spiritual getaway right after that on August 16th through the 18th. Join us. We're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a wonderful event. And also, you can contact us here. Alex, can you see that?
Yeah, it's coming in fine. Yeah, we would also mention, please visit our main website, macrobioticsummerconference.com, which has news about our new diabetes project. We were just approved by the Berkshire Medical Center, which is the big hospital here in the Berkshires, to do a dietary macrobiotic intervention study with diabetic patients. And so we've just started a fundraising campaign. We've raised over $5,000 in the first month. And anyway, the information is on that site, and we hope all of you will join, because this is a wonderful opportunity to create a new community-based program. We're working hand in glove with the doctors for the first time here in the Berkshires. It's a totally integrative medicine project, but based on macrobiotic food. So, and we're hopeful that these people will get off insulin in the course of the 6-week study. They're going to be studying with Bettina, myself, and other friends at Eastover, where we hold the summer conference. Eastover is donating their facilities basically for us. They have a beautiful teaching kitchen, the Miso Happy Kitchen, which they developed for us. So it's great. It's a real breakthrough. 2020, as we said, is going to be a wonderful year for all of us. So any other current events or services, Bettina?
Well, of course, we, since it is going into the new year, and if anybody wishes a personalized forecast for the 9-star key, Alex and I are available to do that either as a written report by phone or on Zoom. So contact us if you're interested in a personalized forecast. And also macrobiotic counseling. Of course, there are, you can join still by the day for an individual day for the winter conference. If you're interested in joining for the whole conference, I believe you would have to contact me directly. But you can do that as well. It starts tomorrow at noon. So, a little bit before noon, let us know. And we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for a talk at 12 with Warren. Anything else, Alex?
No, I think that about covers it. So again, thank you all for joining us. Those of you who joined us live, and those of you who may be watching us in a recorded session in the ether. Anyway, we're happy to connect through time and space. So, again, as Bettina said, Warren will be on deck tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time. So we look forward to all joining together at that time. So thank you all, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alex and Bettina.
Thank you.
Wonderful. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.